Welcome back to First in Preparedness, and tonight we're going to show you how to mount a scope onto a rifle and actually get it level to the action. Now, the technique that I'm going to show you, I did not invent. In fact, a Army sniper buddy of mine showed me this trick, and it is extremely effective and precise to get this scope level with this rifle and mount it properly. So let's go ahead and get this started. So to get this scope mounted level with this rifle, there's a few tools that we need. They're very simple tools, but obviously you need a way to secure the rifle so that when you level it out, it stays there. The next thing you're going to need is a piece of paper, some tape, a Sharpie, a level, just a regular household level. It does help to have a gun level because it's a little bit easier to get the actual action level with the ground. And of course, you're going to need a torque wrench. Torquing things to the proper values is important. I know that from my racing career. And of course, we need some thread locker. I know that's kind of a controversial subject, but I've used Loctite Blue my entire shooting career. I've never had a scope come loose, and I've always been able to move scopes and take bolts off. So Loctite Blue has worked for me 100% of the time. Lastly, we're going to need a flashlight, and I'll show you why here in a little bit. So the gun that we're going to be mounting this scope onto is my son's birthday present. My son this year got involved with the 4-H shooting club, and a little bit of promotion here. If you have a young child and you want them to learn how to shoot properly with the correct fundamentals, I cannot say enough about 4-H shooting club. Now, I did not have to buy him his rifle. If you go to 4-H and you sign up and pay the $40 membership fee, they will supply your child with a rifle, and they will supply him with a year's worth of ammo. And they typically shoot at least 50 rounds per practice that they do. And that $40 that you pay for 4-H is nothing compared to the amount of money that 4-H spends on your child to learn how to properly shoot. So to say the least, I did purchase this rifle for his birthday. I then purchased this Simmons 3x9 scope, which is typically what the younger kids shoot with. I then purchased the CZ scope rings that are the factory mounts to this. So this system should work together quite well. So let's go ahead and get started with the first thing that you have to do. Now, obviously we want to secure the rifle to where we can get the action absolutely level. I mean, this isn't going to be locked down, but I have this strap at the front that will at least keep it close while I move this scope. Before I came out, I had my son do his cheek rest, get his proper eye relief for the scope. So it's somewhat secured where at least longitudinally the scope needs to be. Now I need to make sure this gets level with this. So the first thing we're going to do is level the rifle. Now I'm going to use this Wheeler leveling kit. It has a magnetic base on it. I'm going to put it here on top of the rail for the rifle, and it should stick there. Just a little bit to the left. Okay, right there. It is now leveled to the ground, at least on the axis this way. The rifle is level not only this way, but also longitudinally, but also laterally level as well. Now I'm going to put my piece of paper up. Okay, so now I've got my piece of paper on the back wall, and I've got the rifle is level. And now I need to see where the reticle is. This is where this flashlight comes in handy. I'm actually going to shine the flashlight through the scope, and you will see that that reticle shows up. So there is the reticle that is shining onto the piece of paper through the flashlight that's resting on the rifle. And of course, the rifle is almost level. Let me pinch it over just a little bit. Sorry, folks. And there you go. The rifle is level. There is the reticle. Now let's see how far off we actually are. So now that we have the flashlight projecting the reticle onto this piece of paper, I'm then going to take this level and draw a line that's obviously level here. Now I just eyeballed this scope before, and I thought I got it pretty level with my eyeballs, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but that is level. There's a little bit of gap there at the bottom, so it actually only needs to be rotated a slight amount to be level with the action. So let's go ahead and draw our line and see where we are. So here's our line drawn. You can see that the reticle starts to veer a little bit at the bottom, so I've got to get this reticle lined up with this line, and that will mean my scope is level with the action. So here we go. I've loosened the top screws just a little bit to allow this to move. And now that line is parallel with the level line. The level or the action is level. And the line might need to move just a hair left. Now I've just tightened down this screw and this screw to hold the scope in place, and the scope is still level. Now, one thing that's an absolute pain in the butt is as you start to tighten these down, sometimes the scope will want to rotate. So I only go maybe 1/8 of a turn when they start to get snug on each side. I try to keep this gap consistent between the front and rear scope rings. And as I slowly tighten that down, and then what I will do then is take the screws out, and I will apply a little bit of Loctite on each one and then tighten it down. In the meantime, all of these, other screws will be tight, so the scope will not move. So let's do one final check before we start snugging all this down. The action is level. The line is parallel. Let me move this just a little bit. So now let's go tighten these down. You can see that the reticle is level. The rifle is level. So now I'm going to slowly snug these down. Okay, that's on there pretty tight now. I mean, I can't move this with my hand. So now comes the arduous task of Loctiting these. So now we've got Loctite on all the screws. We're going to do another quick check just to make sure when we were kind of applying all this, it didn't walk anywhere on us. So there is the scope, or the rifle is level, and our reticle is even with that line. That means that this scope is now level with the action on the rifle. So let's go ahead and torque these down slowly now. I'm torquing these, at least CZ, when they give you the rings, they actually give you the proper torque specs for these screws, which is nice. I didn't have to go digging around on the internet. It was actually printed on a piece of paper telling me what these torque specs should be. Now, since I'm applying Loctite, I go on the low end of that torque, which is 15 inch-pounds. So I just slowly tighten all these screws down. I don't just torque one down. Kind of like torquing head bolts. It's getting close to that 15 pounds. There it goes. There it is. Whoop. Drop my flashlight. All right. So, last final check. Let me get the action level. Put our flashlight on our focused reticle. And there it is, level with the line. Well, people, there it is. The super difficult task of mounting a scope to a rifle and getting it all lined up perfect. Well, guess what? It's a very easy job to do with the proper, pretty inexpensive tools if you look at it. I mean, a piece of paper, a Sharpie, a flashlight, a level. I would suggest getting these Wheeler levels for firearms specifically. It does make your job a little bit easier and it's worth the investment. And lastly, a torque wrench to make sure you actually properly torque the screws to their spec. With that, this is not rocket science or rocket surgery, folks. It's very, very easy. With that, I know a lot of people like to spend the money and just hand it off to a gunsmith, but sometimes I've seen scopes that have gone to gunsmiths and they level it off the action to the top of the scope. This is not always exactly level. You're always better off leveling it to the actual reticle itself than some body or surface that's on the actual scope itself. With that, it's a very easy task to do. As long as you make sure everything's level while you're tightening down those screws, it goes relatively smoothly. So I'm pretty excited to go out and have my son sight this in. I'm going to teach him how to do that this week, which of course will be a proud moment for a father. But with that, thank you for tuning in here again to First in Preparedness, if you didn't already know that. And we'll see you in the next episode, like Dr. Dre says.